It is a big boxing weekend as Tank Davis is back. He will be taking on Frank Martin. On the undercard, it will be David Benavidez going up against Alexander Gvozdyk. Apologies for the horrible pronunciation. So let's get into that one. David Benavidez is undefeated at 28-0. He is the interim WBC super middleweight champion, and everyone has been clamoring for him to face Canelo Alvarez, as Benavidez is born in Phoenix, Arizona, as he gets ready for his bout this weekend. He is facing Demetrius Andrade. An interesting fight in this one here against, again, apologies for the pronunciation, Gvozdyk. Benavidez, I think, is a clear favorite in this particular bout. Again, 28-0, 24 wins by knockout, 4 by decision. Coming off of the win over Andrade, the biggest win of his career probably in 2023 when he picked up a unanimous decision win over Caleb Plant. He feels like he is kind of the next one at 27 years old, born to a Mexican father and an Ecuadorian mother. Again, this is, I don't want to say a stay busy fight for him, but this is not the fight that he wants. He wants to be facing Canelo Alvarez. Standing in his way is, well, Canelo Alvarez not wanting to fight him, and Alexander Gvozdyk, who is 37 years old. Coming in with a record of 20-1, 16 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out once. That was against Artur Beterbiev back in 2019. Had 4 years off in between then, and is now stepping back in for his third fight. He's coming off of back-to-back wins. Back-to-back knockout wins and a unanimous decision win in his 3 fights since that loss back in 2019. In that fight in 2019, Gvozdyk was hospitalized as he said he felt a pain in the back of his head. It was fear that there was some brain bleeding going on. The test revealed that it was just a mild concussion, and he was able to come back, but he had retired and has now come out of retirement for this gigantic fight. And so for Gvozdyk, the task is clear, and that is to try to upset the apple cart, be the banana peel for David Benavidez to slip on. Benavidez, there isn't a whole lot. Honestly, in either of these fights, Benavidez is the better fighter, and he has been on some kind of a roll right now to get him into this opportunity. Gvozdyk, I mean, look, like he went out and fought Beterbiev, one of the best fighters in the world, and came up short. That's nothing to scoff at. He had earned that opportunity by winning 17 fights in a row, including against Adonis Stevenson in Montreal in 2018. So shout out Canadian fights. But he's just not on the level of a David Benavidez right now. So I would imagine David Benavidez picks up the win, and I will say he probably gets the knockout in this fight. So we'll go Benavidez by knockout. Then in the main event, it is Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Frank Martin. It's been a minute since we have seen Tank Davis in the squared circle, because after his 29th victory in 29 bouts over Ryan Garcia on June 1st, 2023, Davis was taken into custody for violating the terms of his home detention and sentenced to serve the remainder of his sentence in jail. So 44 days later, he completed the confinement portion of his sentence and was released from a Baltimore jail. So he has been dealing with some stuff in the last little while. There is also a domestic violence accusation. Charges were eventually dropped, but the trouble with the law is not something that has been overly unique to Gervonta in his career. And so I didn't necessarily address all of that when we did the early storylines, so apologies for just glancing over some serious stuff going on in this man's life. And so it feels very callous to say, like, okay, so how much of a distraction is prison? But, jail. But this is someone who has gone through a lot in his life. And when you hear him talk this week, it sounds like this is a different guy coming into this bout. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm making excuses for him or anything like that. We are strictly talking from a boxing perspective. It sounds like there is a different approach to the sport now coming off of that. And I think there's also a frustration. After he beat Ryan Garcia and beat him handily, Ryan Garcia gets his big win, and no one is really focusing on Tank anymore. It's all been Garcia, and I think casuals have kind of pushed Tank to the background. People who cover this still have Tank in the pound for pound running right now. I think Tank needs a big reminder of who he is. 27 wins by knockout. I think we get a 28th as he goes up against Frank Martin, undefeated, 29-year-old fighter out of Michigan. He won Golden Gloves back in Salt Lake City in 2016. This is obviously the biggest bout of his career. He doesn't have a official title on the resume. He has fought former title challengers before, but Gervonta Davis should go in here and light this poor dude up. And I do expect that that is what happens coming up here this weekend. So not the most compelling of bouts, to be sure, after we have had a long line of big fighter against big fighter, big fighter against big fighter, big fighter against big fighter. This is kind of a throwback to, well, this guy's so much better, but he needs a fight and he's going to face this guy. And we'll see if something wild and crazy can happen. Just looking at the odds right now, or at least trying to. All these sites are always a little all over the place to try to find some things. But looking at the odds, because both fights to be finished, I think could be a little bit interesting for us here coming up this weekend, and definitely something that I should have looked at before. Here we go. Gervonta Davis against Martin. Davis is a minus 714 favorite. Good Lord. Same thing with Benavidez. So let's go. Oh, we don't have any prop bets for this yet. Wonderful. That's gambling on the sport of boxing in 2024. So we'll see if anything to finish pops up. We will see if we'll be able to get something on Davis there. But just quickly, can we get it's very much a square play, but can we go, let's go Davis and let's go Benavidez, and let's parlay that together. That's still only minus 334. The juice not worth the squeeze on that one, ladies and gentlemen. The juice is certainly not worth the squeeze. So either way, we're going to see two of the best fighters in the world fight this weekend, not against each other, and they're probably going to win in spectacular fashion.